How's it going, guys? It's John here from Hot Take Hockey to talk about the Leafs and their potential trade targets as we move into the trade deadline. If you're here watching, please subscribe, drop a like. If you don't, you're probably going to miss a lot of cool content going towards the playoffs, a lot of live streams, fan reactions, a lot of cool videos like this. And we're going to bring everyone on, like different kind of fans, fans from different teams. So hopefully you subscribe and stick around. But let's get right into it. So this is kind of a long list. You know how Leaf fans are. You know how the media is in Toronto. Obviously, everything sometimes gets over-exaggerated. Lists get longer. Targets get obviously a little more serious than it possibly can be. I mean, the Dougie Hamilton rumors have been for how long? At one point, it was the Pietrangelo to Toronto. I mean, we have to talk about it. I have to talk about it because fans in Toronto, as much as you can harm them, they do get really excited. So we're going to go through a whole list. Some maybe less realistic, and some names, I mean, maybe a lot of names you've already heard through the trade rumor mill, but we're going to talk about it anyways. So let's start right off with the two names we've been super familiar with. One name that was actually in trade rumors with the Leafs last year, and that's from the Red Wings, Goaltending and defenseman Nick Jensen. So for Luke Goaltending, he's a fourth-line centerman. Babcock knows him well. He can work the penalty kill. He's a good two-way guy. And then for Nick Jensen, pretty underrated in my opinion. I think a lot of Red Wings fans, even my one buddy, wasn't a huge fan of Jensen, but he's come in. He's played like a 4-5 role on the back end. He's got a little bit of untapped potential there on the offensive side, but he's a right-handed defenseman and can work maybe into the Leafs bottom pair. Wayne Simmonds and Ratko Gudas. So for the Philadelphia Flyers, for Simmonds, he could possibly be an own rental. For Gudas, $3 million cap hit. I mean, the Flyers might not want to extend these guys, so the Leafs definitely, if they're looking for some grit going to the playoffs, that's where you look with the Flyers. Justin Braun with the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, the Sharks are a contender. They're up there, but they've got a plural of, they've got lots of defense, and they're trying to add play on their forward group. So maybe, I'm not saying this goes down, but maybe a Connor Brown for Justin Braun, and then the Leafs look into losing that Zaitsev contract. Definitely up there. Brandon Montour, Josh Manson, Jakob Silfverberg. Silfverberg, very underrated on the defensive side of things. A forward that can put up half a point per game throughout the season. So we've seen him have 40-point seasons. Montour and Manson, both right-handed defensemen, both very different. We've heard Montour specifically a lot with the Leafs. Back when Nylander was at RFA still, there was a lot of rumors of a Nylander for Montour and maybe Ritchie. I don't think the Leafs would target Ritchie. The play style is a very similar in what a lot of playoff teams would want. So maybe, and he's an Ontario boy. I know Don Cherry would be all over that. But Montour is a guy I like a lot. He can play the power play. He's a guy that is not really a huge defensive liability, and he's still very, very young. I wouldn't mind if the Leafs looked at him, but another Josh Manson could be a perfect partner for a Jake Gardiner, a reliable guy, obviously lays the body. Then you could have an unreal top four of Muzz and Riley, and then have a reliable guy with Gardner and Manson. Moving down the list, and now with the Oilers falling down, they keep on falling. The issues they've had, you could look at Adam Larson, Zach Cassian, Alex Chason. Cassian could be the replacement for Martin, maybe. Adam Larson, obviously, maybe the Oilers look for an overpayment because, they were the ones that overpaid Taylor Hall. Are you kidding me? We're not going to get into that discussion again. And then Alex Chason, who off the PTO signed the one-year deal. He's had a pretty good season. He's fourth in points on the Oilers. He's a guy you could target for your bottom six in the forward group. Moving down the list, this one's more unlikely, but the fit's not too bad. He's a right-handed defenseman, Cody Ceci with the Sens. The only reason I make this possible is because the Leafs did make the trade with the Habs last year for Thomas Plekanec. So as much as we say it's less likely for them to trade within the big division rivals like Montreal or Ottawa or Boston, it's still a possibility. The one, Chris Tanev, I have to talk about. Obviously, he's been connected with the Leafs for about 2 years now. Canucks are actually close to the playoffs right now. As I make this video, they are they're just out of the wild card spot. So we'll see what they do. But Tanev I had to mention, and then with the Hurricanes, Ferland, Hamilton, Pesce, and Falk. The Hurricanes are right there. If I'm choosing my favorite, I like Falk the most. Falk on the 4.5, I believe it is. I don't know. I like it a lot. Pesci's on the 4.25. Hamilton is more, but is younger. So is younger than Falk. So I don't know. I like Falk's play style the best. I think he can play both sides of the ice the best. He's got a little bit of a jump to his game, and then he's got the additional year, so kind of the same contract format as Muzzin. I'd love to see Falk with a Riley or a Gardner. That's just my opinion. I think the Hurricanes like Falk a little more than the other two guys. Hamilton's obviously probably the guy with the most stock, but it seems like he's kind of becoming a journeyman. Didn't really fit with the Flames as much as we could argue, but ends up getting traded. And then now with the Hurricanes, he's in the same situation. So not really sure what's going on there. With the Arizona Coyotes, I could see them going after like a depth forward guy like Richardson or Wheel. We've talked about Oliver Ekman-Larsson in the past, and Nick Jarmelson for another example. Obviously, Ekman-Larsson went for an extension with Arizona to possibly play out the rest of his career. And then Nick Jarmelson's another left-handed defenseman. Not sure the Leafs will look at that. But Richardson, Wheel, two great depth guys. Wheel, who was obviously with the Flyers, who looked like an intriguing piece in the bottom six. And then Richardson, who's been a pretty good depth guy in his career and could possibly fill out that fourth line center role if the Leafs are looking for that hole again, which it seems like the Leafs are looking for that every year. Going down the list again, Chris Kreider. I mean, Dubas has talked about it. You want a guy possibly with another year that's on a cheaper contract. That's exactly what you're getting with Chris Kreider. He's got another year on his contract. He could play on the left wing. The Leafs are lacking that left wing since we lost JVR. So here in Toronto, I know that there's been a huge problem, and it's kind of funny when fans are analyzing it, or like anyone in Toronto is analyzing it and realizing that Andreas Johnsson's the best left winger on that left side. Moving again, we've heard about the rumors of Gardner for Myers. I think Myers will still be on the radar for Toronto, but I'm not sure Winnipeg's going to move him. Josh Anderson with Columbus. If Columbus falls out of playoff favor, not sure if that works out, or if they don't see Anderson being a long-term option, maybe Josh Anderson to the Leafs. We've heard those rumors lots. And then the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, Bruce Boudreau has said that they're going. Paul Fenton, new management, is kind of saying the other thing that they're going to rebuild maybe. I don't know. If I'm looking at two guys for the Leafs, I'm looking at a Charlie Coyle and I'm looking at a Jared Spurgeon. Jared Spurgeon I've liked a lot. He's small, a little undersized, but his movement with the puck, he's very sneaky in the offensive zone. He's not a defensive liability, so I like Spurgeon a lot. I don't think his contract's anything too crazy either. And then finishing the list, I mean, Ben Lovejoy is a guy with the Devils that is similar to a Gudis, similar to like a Nick Jensen, come in as an underrated guy, could play on your bottom pair, could be a better option than like an Ozhganov, so I don't mind it. Just to finish this video, I know Leafs fans get super excited, and you know, it'd be great, but we've got a cap issue here, and you're not going to go after a guy like Mark Stone or Panarin. Yeah, it would be unreal to get a rental like that, but you're not giving up the farm. You don't want to lose guys like Liljegren. You don't want to lose a guy like Rasmus Sandin unless it's going to almost guarantee that you have one of the best shots of the Stanley Cup. Right now, the Leafs look really good. They look like in that top 5, top 7 conversation. But experience, as much as it's as much as it's there in some aspects, they're lacking in other areas. And this is what I was going to finish with this part of the video. It'd be really interesting to see if, I didn't talk about this, but it'd be interesting to see if they go after a goaltender, whether maybe it's a Darcy Kemper with the Coyotes, or maybe Jimmy Howard with the Red Wings. Garrett Sparks obviously has been inconsistent, and it would be interesting to see if the Leafs go for a backup. Maybe even go back and get Curtis McElhinney from the Hurricanes. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Please subscribe to the channel, drop a like. It was a good conversation. I hope you enjoyed what I'm talking about. Agree with what I'm kind of saying, because obviously all these players have been connected to the Leafs. I think through my conversation, hopefully you guys understand who I'm more swaying towards and who I think they have a better chance of getting. If the Leafs make a trade from now until the deadline, it's maybe 1 or 2 trades. They already made the Muzzin trade, so if it's 2 trades, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 minor trades, maybe for the 4th line center or maybe for another goalie. To help, whether it's Sparks moving or just to help out Sparks as like a 3rd goalie who's on a deal that could make it flexible. And they already did that with Hutchinson, so maybe Hutchinson's the guy that just helps that situation out. but we'll have to wait to see. So Leafs, great position going into the playoffs. Kyle Dubas, Mike Babcock. We'll see what the Leafs have in store. Again, hopefully you subscribe and stick around with the channel. This is John from Hot Take Hockey. Peace out.